Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Boston Celtics, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Boston Celtics, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Packard, J. King.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Boston Celtics, Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Daddy's always happening here.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Boston Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's internet. This is episode 57. I am Sam Jam Packard, joined by the great Brian B. Robb from MassLive.com. We are Still Poddable with Jay King from The Athletic. We are a Monday through Friday Boston Celtics podcast, and you can find the vast majority of our great work at patreon.com/stillpoddable, a wonderful website with a great community of people. But today, you know, we can't be all entirely behind a paywall. We have to give the people a glimpse of what they're missing over there on the Patreon. So that means today's the free episode. We are on the CLNS YouTube page today, brought to you by Prize Picks. So subscribe to the CLNS YouTube. Subscribe to us at patreon.com/stillpoddable if you want Monday through Friday Boston Celtics talk from me, from B-Rob, from Jay King. That is the place to get it. Today, we're dabbling with a little bit of a news. We got some rumors. We got some scuttlebutt. And then we're going to hit you with a Poddable six-pack, a classic two-man draft. I guess it's a three-round draft. Yeah, that's how math works.
I kind of wanted to push to extend this one, Packard. I kind of wanted to push an extra round.
Got some honorable mentions. We'll see what's happening. That's going to be players. I was going to say players of European descent, but no, players in the Brad Stevens era who have once played in the EuroLeague. And that ties into a bit of a news story we'll get to in a moment. But first, I don't think you have ever seen this because we were talking a little bit pre-show. Chris Mannix, known Celtics guy, was talking to KOC, Kevin O'Connor, on his podcast. Former known Celtics guy, now national basketball person. And he said his thoughts on what the Celtics wanted to do with Kristaps Porzingis was to extend him, but at a lower number than his current $30 million a year, and try to keep him for, I don't know, a shorter term contract at I don't know what the number would be, 25. I don't know how much of a pay cut Kristaps would be willing to take. But this is the first I have heard of even such a scenario. And I'm curious, B-Rob, I feel like out of the three of us, you have the best handle on just the cap and the tax and the aprons. Does this make any sense to you? Because it immediately was like, I read it as like that for a team that's like $23 million over the second apron, extending Kristaps for a multi-year deal just didn't pass the smell test for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me to see them doing right now, unless it's a serious discount that they figure will age well and make him very tradable moving forward.
Maybe a declining contract or but I don't know if Kristaps is, why would Kristaps, I feel like he has more value than that. He's not going to take
right.
Like, I think his sickness and his health certainly made it so he's not going to get out there and get a max, but I think he showed when he was right at the end of this year that he certainly still has value in this league, and he's 7'3". That has to mean something still.
Completely. That was some of the best offensive basketball of his career before the mystery virus came into play in March. And I don't know, Packard, it's you look in terms of building forward right now. I look at that from two perspectives from my vantage point. One, do the Celtics want to pay Kristaps Porzingis next contract based on just, for how good as he could be? He still has not really played in the playoffs for 2 years, really hasn't been able to stay on the floor of the court's career. And now you're eventually going to be losing your security blanket in Al Horford, whether that's now or a couple years down the line. That is going away. So that's one. And two, like, just the afford, like, if your plan is to keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on supermaxes and Derek White is part of the equation, I'm not sure you can afford to pay Porzingis $20 or $25 million, just because unless ownership is willing to stay in the repeater tax perpetually, which could be possible, which could happen, I don't remember, but that might be, he's been a luxury the last couple of years, a smart bet for the most part by the front office, barring some bad injury luck in the playoffs, but clearly a good fit. But now I feel like this next shift, whatever's going to happen this offseason, is going to be like, all right, we have those luxuries are going to have to go away right now. And honestly, the only way I could see Porzingis doing an extension or something like that is if like something bigger is coming down the pike that frees up a lot of long-term money. And that would be like Jaylen or Derek White going out the door. And I mean, I guess we can have that conversation at some other point, but that'd be surprising to me.
Yeah, the thing that maybe is like, maybe you consider it if you just really don't know where else you're going to get a center, and like you feel like there's like such a
Cornet. No,
I know that was immediately my next point. Is like, would you rather pay Kristaps Porzingis $25 million a year or Luke Cornet closer to 15? If that's the difference between being a tax team or an apron team, like I feel like. I mean, we are a big Luke Cornet celebration pod, and I don't know if we're getting out of line here. I don't even know if $15 million is an overpay.
I don't think he'll be 15. I think he'll be closer to. I think he's closer to 5 than 15 in terms of what he's going to get.
I like a 4 for 80. You think like what money do you think Luke Cornet?
Oh, no. I think Luke Cornet. I think it'd be closer to like $5 million per year. I'm saying like a long.
Oh, you don't even think he's going to get full mid-level?
I don't think he'll get.
I feel like the Lakers would throw like 4 for 60 at him.
But they don't have full. I don't think they're.
No one has money.
No one has the full. No one has money.
CBA ruined the middle class of the NBA.
Yes.
You either make the max or you make a Peyton Pritchard paltry sum of $7 million, and it's frankly union malpractice for what they did to the players 50 through 450 in this league. Because like Luke Cornet, a big man with that skill should at least be making $12 million a year in this NBA. Yes. And it's a crime that he's not necessarily going to get that. Not because teams won't want to pay him that, just because they're like unable because of the rules. It's actually insane.
Right. So he's obviously going to get offers from teams. Certainly taxpayer mid-level. He'll definitely get that from a bunch of teams. Beyond that, from what I heard, we know like Austin Ainge said on the record last year, like we had guys that turned down more money to stay here. I believe Luke Cornet was one of those guys. So how much like long-term security the Celtics can give him, how much that comes into play, being like, hey, you're a guy, like we need you at the right price, and obviously you're not going to go anywhere if we get you at that price. But yeah, like that, I would rather be in the business of paying Luke Cornet on a reasonable like $5 to $10 million per year annually than Porzingis at, even if it's a $20 to $25 per year going forward on an extension, because I just think not that Porzingis isn't a better player than Cornet. It's just like when you only have limited money to spend with this team going forward, I think that's better bang for your buck when you have, and helps you address other stuff elsewhere where you can get more veteran guys, more guys that can, do things that Cornet can't do in the front court, or maybe you hit in the draft. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough though, because it is like we say that now, but if maybe Luke Cornet playing starting level minutes for 60, 70 games, Packard, we're singing in a different tune next year.
Like the new NBA, the new CBA, like the market inefficiency or where you have to win on the margins in terms of roster building is like how much value can you get out of your $10 million players, or how many people like Peyton Pritchard can you dupe into signing a 4-year, $7 million a year contract? Like obviously every team's going to get their 2 stars and they're going to lock into like however much of the cap is for those 2 max players. But really it's how many guys can you put around those 2 max players who make as little money as possible. So I'm in complete agreement. Like I would much rather pay, and especially if you have a third presumably star on your roster like Derek White, who you're playing $30+ million a year, you're going to need as many $5 to $10 million contracts as you can get, who can be like, I trust this guy, which I certainly do with Luke Cornet, and but we're going to pay him well below what his market value should be. And so that kind of feels like a no-brainer. I want to run another rumor by you that I don't know if you saw. This one kind of flew under the radar. It was one of those, it was like, I'm not going to say less than media outlets because I don't remember exactly what it was, but it felt like, I don't even remember what it was, the exact outlet, but it feels like, remember the Sporting News? Like, remember they used to be a real top-class magazine? I feel like they're not as, have as much of a reputation. And I'm not saying it was the Sporting Rubes, but it was some news organization, level of outlet. And I think the rumor was Malcolm Brogdon back to the Celtics for the a veteran minimum, because he's on needs to prove it. He's coming off the injuries. Now, I have zero inside information, but I don't remember the Malcolm Brogdon era in Boston necessarily going well. And I'm saying this just based on vibes I got. And B-Rob, you're a little bit more connected to the organization than I am, but what's your reaction to the idea of the Celtics re-signing Malcolm Brogdon on the veteran minimum?
That is very laughable. Okay, for the reasons you meant. Like, again, heard a lot of scuttlebutt during the summer before he got traded. Heard potentially he wasn't working out. And I know, again, this is just was scuttlebutt that he was not working out at the practice facility during that summer.
Sixth man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon?
Yes.
He was on the court like a very solid player for them. Like, he really came off the bench and gave him a solid 16 points a game.
I don't think he appreciated Joe Mazzulla coming out and declaring Derek White the starting point guard either, after Marcus Smart's trade. But
that was supposed to be a Malcolm Brogdon trade.
Yeah, could have been right. And I don't think he appreciated being traded and not being traded within the same afternoon during what became the Marcus Smart trade. So yeah, my guess is Malcolm Brogdon is playing on a veteran minimum deal somewhere next year on like a good team. I would be stunned for it to be the Boston Celtics, even though clearly will they have some minutes available off the bench? Sure. If they trade Drew Holiday, absolutely. But if Malcolm Brogdon is ready to come back and take those minutes, that would be a stunner to me. But Sporting News, level outlet, wherever this came from, I mean, if they hit on that one, then they're moving up the ranks. But that'd be a bit of a stunner to me.
I think it was more of maybe this is an idea that could happen because Brad Stevens likes bringing back his guys, but I don't know if Malcolm Brogdon was one of Brad's guys. I think that's where I'm calling shenanigans on that entire idea. Giannis apparently isn't going to be traded, is the latest news. I don't know if there's a really... on one part of me, I think it's cool that like the idea that Giannis could stay in Milwaukee for his entire career just because, there's some romance in sports about that. But that just feels bad for Giannis because what are the Bucks going to be next year? They have no one. Yeah. Like, Dame is hurt. Why can't I remember? They got Kyle Kuzma. Why can't I remember Robin Lopez's brother's name? Brooke Lopez. That guy's old as hell.
He's a free agent as well.
Who makes more money, Brooke Lopez or Luke Cornet?
Oof, that could be a top. I mean,
Brooke Lopez was he ever Defensive Player of the Year, or is he just in the running?
I think he was probably in the running back in the day, like me, but I don't think he ever got that crown. But yeah, certainly it wouldn't be. I think that's a toss up in terms of who gets more money. I would guess on Brooke is probably going to get a mid level somewhere, as well, or taxpayer mid level depending on what he's looking for at this point in his career. But yeah, if you look at like the honest thing, I think this is just going to change by the week, Packard. Of like Giannis is going to go, Giannis is like no one knows yet, but ultimately I think Giannis is going to sit down and look at the situation and be like, I don't want what am I waiting for to do this? Because there is no path to like rebuilding contender there. Because they don't have any picks. You have Lillard tore his Achilles. He's not going to be, even when he comes back, he's going to be a guy in his late 30s that's coming off an Achilles injury as a small guard. Like, that's not going to go well. And then it's going to be like a multi-stage rebuild to like bring in some players around him. So he's going to be patient enough for that. I don't know.
It's interesting with like the timing of it all, because I think Windy just came out and was like, expect a lot of stuff to happen at the draft. So if Giannis doesn't make up his mind in the next like 2 weeks, I feel like he's the first domino to fall, and teams are being like, obviously he's available. He's our number one option. But then if he's not available and you don't think he's going to become available, you try to figure out with stuff for KD. Durant. Yeah. And it seems like everyone is certain that KD is going to be traded. And shout out to Kevin Durant, by the way, who logged onto Twitter today and just did not log off. Just tweeting up a storm, defending his honor, going at random people, just being like, I have been a great basketball player. I think the original tweet was like, he hasn't been great since he left Golden State. And I just think, I love Kevin Durant for just tweeting through it, because as a poster, as someone who grew up on Twitter, I respect that. But he has been great. And his main point was that, like, I haven't won a championship since then. Yeah, it's a team sport. And I haven't been on some great teams. Now, can you criticize him for maybe creating some situations where he wasn't on the great team? Perhaps. But in terms of what Kevin Durant has done on the court since Golden State, he's been a phenomenal basketball player. 50, 40, 90s, multiple Olympic medals. I think you can't really criticize KD for anything he's done.
Agree. I mean, the pressure is on, though, in this last stand for him. Like, he needs to really think hard about where he's going to have some stay here. I imagine where he's going to go. And because you got a stench of the Suns on you. Like, things went obviously very bad in Brooklyn. Some of that was beyond his control. But, like,
they would have won the finals that year if his big toes.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like, the Nets one is defensible. It's like guys got hurt. Like,
James Harden doesn't like tear his hamstring, or Kyrie doesn't Kyrie. And how are you going to know that Kyrie's going to Kyrie? Like, how could you possibly anticipate that?
But the Suns, like, just not. And again, like, they were a mess around him. But the fact that he wasn't able to like drag them to the playoffs in the first place was like, wow. But yeah, he's still a very good player, and just not has not been pushed himself in the right directions for the last 6-7 years. But now that could change in a hurry here in the next 2-3 weeks, and I do think that's the first domino to fall, and it'll be fascinating. Just like do teams wait for Giannis, or do they pounce on KD? Do they pivot there, like you said, around the draft, and then it's like, what's the next level of guy? If like, Durant's gone and Giannis is going to stay put, do some teams see like Jalen as like the next guy to make a monster offer for, because there's no one else out there at the level? Not that the Celtics are like looking for that, but I'm sure that's like, if those talks ever become serious, that's the type of stuff that would come into play, of like Giannis staying put, and then teams with assets to burn that want to make a big push for obviously this year.
What do you think is the best KD situation? If you're KD, who are you angling yourselves to? And my answer is, why is it not the terrifying San Antonio Spurs?
Yeah, that's the default. Yeah, I think that like you go through realistic. Houston is like interesting, but I still think he's not like San Antonio has much more, well-rounded emerging weapons, obviously with Wemby and company, and then they'd have a lot left over to put around him. And I don't know, like how much would the Knicks scare you if they got Durant?
I feel like they would have to give up so much of their starting lineup. The deal that I think I heard today on the Low Post was the Pistons for like Tobias Harris, Beef Stew, Ivy, and pick. If you just basically replaced Tobias Harris with Kevin Durant and kept the same kind of like Pistons core, I feel like that's a scary team, where it's just like you adding that much scoring and kind of like a veteran presence to where he doesn't have to be the main guy. It's still kind of Cade, and you still have like a decent roster around him. I don't know if that deal's realistic whatsoever, but I had not considered the Pistons as like a mover and a shaker in terms of a team that could add a star, but and now that I say it out loud, I just don't know why the Suns would necessarily do that unless you include a bunch of draft picks or you're a big Jaden Ivey fan. But I don't think anyone's that big a Jaden Ivey fan. But it was an intriguing idea. It's just, I'm coming back to it. This goddamn CBA has ruined trade. It's ruined everything.
But it's wild. It's fascinating to be like, look at the Celtics though, and how obviously Tatum's injury like takes them out of these discussions for a large part, and what kind of discussions we would be having if Tatum was healthy. Not that I would expect them to be going after Durant at this point for this, but it's like, obviously now it's not even like, you don't even have that conversation. It's like, yeah, of course this team's not going to go after Durant. But I think, I mean, honestly, it seems there's a lot more teams going after him in the West and the East. I guess like he could end up in Miami but I even look at them versus what other teams have to offer, and you're like, why would the Suns take, you're like, is Hawkes and like Jovic, like, is that enough of a young emerging guy? Like, no, like you should be able to get better for that than Durant, but he's on an expiring deal, so I don't know what the asking price is going to be.
It's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully the deals, the rumors, they all keep coming, because this part's still fun. You know what else is fun, B-Rob, is making money. And if you know ball, there's only one series left in the playoffs in the championship for you to make some of that money. That means using our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is just a fun way to get in on the action. You just choose more or less on a few player stats, and you have the shot to win up to 2,000 times of your money. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. You can try and figure out if it's going to be a good Halliburton game or a bad Halliburton game. You have no idea. More fourth quarter comebacks for the Pacers. That's not an actual thing you can probably try and figure out, but it's a fun way to kind of watch the game. And we only got a few more basketball games left, so it's your opportunity to get in on the action. If you download the app today and use code CLNS, you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Now, B-Rob, it's time to get to the what everyone came here for. Now, they're explaining the news story today, because I can't say I followed this entirely, where the origin of this is coming from. Joe Mazzulla's in Europe, you say?
Joe Mazzulla spotted courtside last night in Turkey, I believe, with his wife, taking in some Turkish playoff basketball. And
as one does on their summer vacation.
I mean, this is June. This is, but this is the Celtics have been very active over the years overseas. They have overseas scouts, but it is noteworthy. I mean, you catch Brad over time here or there, but to catch a coach over there is, it's obviously got everyone's attention. So he was watching a game, which included Nigel Hayes-Davis, who was a former Wisconsin standout back about, I think, around close to 10 years ago at this point. Had a cup of coffee in the NBA after going undrafted in 2016, but has pretty much been overseas since the 2018 season, and has turned into like MVP level guy in the EuroLeague. And he's he's 30 years old now. He's 6'8". Was not really a shooter coming out of college, but now is a good shooter at 6'7", 6'8", in terms of, and then a good versatile defender as well. And so, yeah, like we looked at this story pack. So this was obviously the big news of the day in Celtics land, because we're in the middle of June. But I did kind of tell the tale here of what I think is going to be part of the plan for the Celtics offseason, of being like, they don't have money to spend, really, Packard. They want to be competitive.
Gems.
You gotta find those gems. You gotta turn over those rocks. And the Hayes-Davis situation is more interesting, because he worked out for the Celtics 4 years ago, in 2021, when Brad had just taken over as GM, and there was rumors that he was going to sign them, but he didn't. So obviously these are two sides that are very familiar with each other. I imagine he made a bunch more money in Europe now, but now if the Celtics go to him, Packard, and say, hey, listen, Jason Tatum's out. We're going to need some guys playing some minutes.
This is your chance to get some serious minutes in the NBA.
Right. We can only give you that veterans minimum, but you can play for the Boston Celtics, and we're still going to be pretty good. And you can, prove that you are an NBA player. And so that's fascinating to me. That's like whether like how much they're going to lean into that this offseason. Like there's not a ton of open roster spots, but I imagine we're going to see at least one of these guys from overseas, if not more, depending on how much wheeling and dealing they do in the coming days.
When's Yao Madar coming over? When's Begaron going to make his?
Waiting on those guys. Waiting a lot of stashes.
Still waiting, unfortunately.
But Dan Packard, so this news though, I thought created a perfect opportunity for us to jump into the 6-pack and figure out who are these past gems that we're going to.
Who are these hidden gems? Brad's European scouting department. So we're drafting. Now the rules are they have to be played in the Brad Stevens era, so post 2013, and played in the EuroLeague prior to coming to the Celtics. And now, B-Rob, do you want first pick or second and third pick?
This is tough. I'm going to give you the first pick.
All right. This one feels obvious to me, but maybe I've been a little biased. German big man warring with referees is Daniel Theis. Now, Daniel Theis, the year after Al Horford went to the 76ers, Kyrie's gone. That was back in the day when I was still doing some writing. I wrote a article for Boston.com all about how like they have no expectations this year. Everyone should just enjoy the ride. I mean, my God, they're starting Daniel Theis at center. How good could this team be? And he rose to the occasion and was just a very solid player for them. And I've loved every single minute he played for the Boston Celtics. Every single three he made. Theis is phenomenal on defense. Phenomenal might be a stretch. He was solid on defense. The war on referees, the referees' war on him, I should say. I just loved everything Daniel Theis brought to the table. And of course, he had 3 seasons in the German league before coming over to the Celtics. So I felt like that was the obvious number 1 pick.
Yeah, it pains me to see him go at number 1. But yeah, that's a forever Celtic. That's a guy who even when he wasn't on the Celtics was watching the finals courtside. I think with 2022. And yeah, and even this year he got waived, I think, at the trade deadline. I'm sure he could have gone to the Lakers or something like that. But no, he went back to Europe. He couldn't even stand the prospect of playing for anyone else but the Celtics at that point. But no, just like in terms of as impactful gem, like that's a guy who they got at the minimum and was pretty much like a starter level player in the NBA when he was healthy, and he had some pretty big injuries over the years in key spots, but it was certainly a hell of a run for him, and one of I think the front office's finest achievements to get a guy like that on the minimum just to come over in the middle of his prime. All right, my pick at number 2. So this is I had a big plan to go. I shouldn't have given you that number 1 pick. Now I'm like my draft board has been blown up right now. I'm gonna go with a guy I know you are gonna want, and was only here briefly, but damn it, he was good. Shane Larkin is my number 2 pick.
I almost went number 1 with Shane Larkin.
You took my guy. I'm taking your guy. And another guy who he's been phenomenal overseas since he left. He came back for 1 year for the Celtics. I think it was the first year of Kyrie, so it was 27, 2018. And the sneaky thing about that year, Packard, of like, for all the injuries they had, down the stretch run of that year when, Kyrie went down, obviously Hayward was out, like Shane Larkin got hurt in the playoffs too. And now I think it was a really big deal in that Cavs series when they obviously within a game of the finals.
He was the backup point guard behind Terry Rozier. Like he played serious minutes and came in, was kind of like the change of gears guy and like bringing like energy. Talk about energy. Defense. He was Payton Pritchard before Payton Pritchard. Like he couldn't shoot as well, but still.
Right. And so he had, he got drafted by the Mavs, got traded, I think, 2 or 3 times in his first 3 years, went overseas for 1 year, and then the Celtics plucked him away. I think the same year as they got Tice, if I believe correctly. So just a monster year for gems like that. And and then he was the great, pick and roll bench energy guy, like you said, and then went back overseas and has just dominated overseas ever since then, probably making more money than he would have in the NBA. But that's been like
EuroLeague MVP. He's been like not just like he's been so good in the EuroLeague. Like he won the 25 MVP like most recently. I don't know what this means. It says EuroLeague 25 MVP, but that round 25. He won the MVP in 2018, 2019. But still impressive stuff. And he's a member of the Turkish national team, which is cool for him.
No. So just 1 year of the Celtics, but a hell of an impact when he was here. Well, I have another question for you before I make my next pick on this. Are we judging these players strictly by what they've done with the Celtics? Or could they potentially be just where
they could just be good picks? I think there's no rules to a potable 6-pack. It's whatever you feel is most deserving. And I feel like we give Shane Larkin first round grade because he was a EuroLeague MVP, not necessarily just because of his 1 year in Boston.
All right. I got my point guard. Need a big man. I'm going Yabu, number 3 here.
Bastard!
Because I do not think he was going to still be on the board.
He definitely wasn't.
And damn it, if he didn't prove us all wrong with play of the Sixers right now. And I don't know, Packard, if they go crazy this offseason and cut money left and right and get under the luxury tax and, go crazy, Yabu's out there as a free agent right now. And you could certainly potentially the best free agent power forward on the market that's attainable. And so the Sixers can't really offer him much of anything given their cap situation.
No, all the rumors around here are that Yabu is probably not coming back to the 76ers.
Right. So he's going to get real money from someone, and the Celtics aren't in a position to give it to him either. But if they were, he's proven it. Like he's phenomenal.
So much better now than he was as a member of the Boston Celtics. Just the crazy performance in the Olympics, but I went to both games the Celtics played here in Philadelphia and was just like impressed by Yabu both times. Just so much more physical, better shooter. Just like everything about his game has gotten that much better. I'm upset that you picked it, but it was like you had to pick it.
Yes, it's a phenomenal story. And then like his play in the Olympics was also just unbelievable. And I know that's what got him his spot in the first place, but to see him mature the way he was, and it's just a great vibes guy. Like the vibes around Yabu when he was here, obviously he didn't really do anything when he was here. But everyone loved him. And everyone loved the picture of his ass just lives in perpetuity on Twitter now. So it's like
one of the greatest Photoshops ever is there's a picture of Tommy Heinsohn painting something, and then they Photoshop Yabu's ass into that picture, so it looked like Tommy was painting it. That's saved on my phone. That'll be a forever meme in my head.
Yeah, so I feel good about that. That's I'll give you the present day version of Yabu with the vibes of him as the ultimate bench cheerleader when he was here on those. The one bright spot in those the second Kyrie year where everything else was going to hell, but at least Yabu was still on the bench with good vibes.
Now, B-Rob, you took the guy I wanted to take, and so I'm going to take a guy I think you want to take, and it's one Swedish Larry Bird, Jonas Jerebko, and it's just
this is warfare now.
This is absolute warfare. You take my guys, I take your guys. I wasn't fully sure Jerebko was a EuroLeague player because I think of him before Celtics as a Piston. Right. He did play, I think, 6 years there, but the Wikipedia played in a second-tier Swedish club for a couple of years and then a first-tier Swedish club. And last time I checked, Sweden was in Europe. But think about just a 3-year run there for the Celtics. Swedish Larry Bird, just huge. Just that 2016, 2017 Celtics. He was a pretty big part off the bench where it's like you had your Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Isaiah Thomas kind of core crew. But Jerebko is a stretch 4. Now we don't even have stretch 4s anymore. Like everyone's just expected to be, if you're a 4, you're expected to shoot 3s. But Jerebko was still back in the day where you needed a stretch 4 and he could knock it down. He could do some weird stuff in the lane. He was intense. I'm preaching to the choir here. I mean, you're
not the kind of big. I think there was a great highlight mix. I don't know if you ever saw this. I think it was 2017 playoffs where the Celtics upset Cleveland in Game 3 over there when IT was out, and Jerebko had maybe 4 or 6 points in that game, but he got into it with Darren Williams and he set some mean screens, and they just had a huge comeback in the second half to pull off this miraculous comeback, and it's like a minute and a half mixtape of just Jerebko setting screens or a random tap in or grabbing a rebound. Which
is that YouTube page bookmarked on your browser?
So that is why I watch that 5 times a day. But it is he had some more like that, and then I think the year before he started Game 3 against the Hawks in that Hawks Celtics series, and they tied up the series too. He was the adjustment in the starting lineup because he can, like you said, he could hit threes, hit the offensive glass, and that was tough to find back in those days. Was certainly doing that better than Sullinger and Kelly Olynyk when he was hurt. So, yeah, Packard, this is I'm gonna probably offer you a trade after this draft is over, just my team for your team, based on how this draft is going. But great pick so far.
I was actually shocked that you didn't go Jerebko number 1. I think I may have incepted your brain by all of my Shane Larkin talk before the draft. It's my final pick.
You've got 2 bigs.
I don't know who the second big is because I'm thinking between one big and a guard, and they're both fan favorites. But I'm gonna have to go with the one I actually talked to in the locker room, who's still playing some great ball over in for Real Madrid right now. Vincent Poirier, Vinny Sexpants, just a stylistic man. Never really did much. Here's the question. Who has been a more productive pro, Vince in the NBA, Poirier or Neemias Queta? Because I feel like it's Queta. Because
it's Queta. It's definitely Queta. Poirier literally did nothing.
Such hope for Vinny Sexpants. He broke his finger and he was like, "It's me, Vinny Sexfinger." That's funny to me. I was
we did an oral history of his that year and a half where he was here for sure. I
always expected so much more from him. Just roll to the rim, Vinny. Just there were some moments of brilliance, but you guys know me. I'm not really one who's immediately going to celebrate Queta, but Queta has already done more in the NBA than Vinny ever did. And so maybe I'm saying why this isn't the best pick, but the name Vinny Sexpants alone and the fact that he embraced it, and I could call him Les Sexpants de Vincent, it just had to be my last pick.
I respect it. I would have been disappointed if you left him on the board. But Vinny Sexpants will live forever. I am absolutely crushed right now in terms of who I had a wild card sleeper pick that I was hoping was going to fall. Wouldn't be on your radar here, and he's there, but he's also alongside another one of my guys whose name is Brad Wanamaker, who I was an advocate for forever.
Brad Wanamaker's in the Euro. Oh wow!
So he was Brad Wanamaker but here's the other one though, Packard. So I have to either decide between Brad Wanamaker and then another sleeper here, Javonte Green.
Oh, I didn't realize he was in the EuroLeague.
Right. So another two more gems
I got
here.
another name to throw out there.
Please.
Acquired, I believe, in the Jonas Jerebko deal as well.
Oh, GG.
Gigi Datome. Now it's up to you to make who you think.
This is. I gotta go Wanamaker. I was just the ultimate Wanamaker guy. When he came, he didn't play for his first year. He played real solid. The year after, I think like the 2020, the year they went to the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble against the Heat. But to me, it was the year before. Scary Terry was getting for him. That was the disaster Kyrie year, and it was a disaster year for Terry because Terry obviously was on the bench, not getting. He had just taken them, was starting on the way to the conference finals, and now he was playing behind Kyrie and Marcus Smart, and wasn't playing well. And I was like, half of that year was just like, Wanamaker has been better than Terry right now. But obviously Terry is like that. Brad Stevens was not going to make that change in that locker room because he was just trying to hold things together by his spread. But Wanamaker was just like a serviceable, like that was a guy who just went overseas for like, kind of like would be very similar to what like Hayes-Davis is, like if they bring him aboard, like went overseas pretty much his entire career, came back in his late 20s and just knew how to play. And he didn't last much longer than he did in Boston. I think he played what 1 year in Golden State, 1 year in Washington after he left here, but he was a real rotation player on a playoff team that almost got to the NBA Finals and probably should have beat that Heat team in the bubble. So that
led the league in free throw percentage, never missed a free throw. And also, if I'm remembering correctly, and please someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, I feel like anytime he got in transition, he just refused to pass.
Yes.
He just always just took it himself, which is something I can respect. He's been traveling across Europe for his entire career. This is NBA chance. He's going to get buckets. He's going to get to the line, and he's not going to miss a free throw. So I think that's a fantastic pick. And good research on you. Because I think of him as Pitt, but yeah, he was a European journeyman for a while.
Yeah.
So you know what? I think we did a solid job. A good draft.
Other honorable mentions. Old friend Vitor
Favarini, of course.
6 blocks in his debut, the highlight of his Celtics career. In the first game of the Brad Stevens era, and then Ante Zizic did some great summer league games for him before he was traded.
Traded in the Kyrie deal, right?
Yes.
Oh wow, there was a big Ante hype that summer league. Everyone thought he could be the next big thing.
I don't know if he counts in the highlight tapes. I feel like the highlight videos were like that's where they started with like him, like people watching him overseas during those whatever that was 2016, 2017 when they stashed him. They stashed him in Yabu for a year.
And it never happened. That's too bad for Ante Zizic, but he didn't make that team and he didn't make our team, so that's tough. That's going to do it for us, folks. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate Prize Picks for sponsoring this episode. Everyone watching on the CLNS YouTube page, thank you guys for tuning in. Be back tomorrow with reactions from Game 3 of the NBA Finals, reacting to more Celtics rumors. If you want more Still Poddable, go to patreon.com/Still Poddable. That is Monday through Friday Celtics talk from me, from Brian Robb from MassLive.com, and from Jay King from The Athletic. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be back tomorrow with more on Patreon.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable, the Boston Still Poddable, Still Poddable. Oh yeah! Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.